Everybody, and welcome to another live edition of the Rock Pile. Tonight, the Rock Pile brings the No Huddle podcast back again. It's hard to believe it's already been 2 weeks, and we're down to, I believe, the last couple of weeks of college football, and then we'll get into the conference championship, bowl games, and more. Tonight, I'm bringing Pags in from the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch. Well, technically, we're bringing him on, but he's having some problems with the webcam, but he will be on with us. We'll have Coach Medicis, we got Coach DerCola, and we got Nick from CBUS. We've got the crew on here tonight, so I'm going to bring them on one by one. Let's get them on here. What's going on, guys?
What's up,
Evening,
Rob?
Coach.
How's it going?
It's going. We got the Pags. I feel like it's the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch.
Listen, it's a little nerve-wracking to come on for the first time. I got like pages of notes here. It's ridiculous.
No, like I said, we won't make fun of you too bad. You can't get the webcam on. At some point, maybe we'll see your face. But it's good to have you anyways, Pags.
Yeah, good to be here.
So, you guys, we'll go around the horn, but I just want to get into the introductions real fast. And I want to start with this. When college football started this year, Spencer Rattler was benched. DJ has struggled. De'Aaron King Miami was preseason top 10 in the country. He goes down. JT Daniels has barely played. And then the BCS rankings come out last night, and Michigan is ahead of Michigan State. So we'll talk about the BCS rankings, but that's the world of college football, right, CBUS?
Oh, somebody's greasing some money there for those playoff rankings.
CBUS, what do you got for us tonight?
Excited, Rock. I think as you said, it's November. It's go time. It's all these games are nip tuck now. Excited to talk to you a little about the Buckeyes and talk about breaking down these playoff rankings. And I think it's going to be another great show. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait. Jake, how about you?
Yeah, always excited to be on. It just seems like every week there's huge upsets, and you just never know. And even though sometimes they call it, this week there's nothing special, there's always about 2 to 3 upsets, which is always exciting.
Coach Medicis going with the hat look tonight. I like it. What do you got tonight?
I got to support my buddy over here. We got the RFA football hat on today. And at some point, I think I might throw it. So I'm just trying to pick the right time right now. But no, I'm just, it's nice to talk college football and not say, all right, it's Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, and who this year. It's nice to say, hey, we got teams in the top 5. And you know what? At some point, number 9 could get in, number 10 could get in. There's just so much football left to be played. So it's been a fun football year so far.
Pags, your first show with us, man. What do you got for us?
No, I agree. I think it's kind of shaping up pretty nicely with the teams that we have. I think last week you look at the schedule and there weren't too many games that you looked on the schedule and said these are big games. But it turned out to be we had some pretty good games last week, especially with the big upset that kind of shake things up a little bit. But I think you have an opportunity for some teams to get in, and it's debatable. I mean, we get into this every year. We talked about it on Sports Watch last week, where if we had 12 teams, there probably wouldn't be any debate, because I think after that the drop off is pretty big. But it's definitely turning out to be pretty interesting. There's some teams that will be playing each other that'll knock each other off, and it'll make for a good ending at the end here.
Well, guys, I want to talk real fast about last week. There were some games, and to me, I thought it was moving week. Some teams had the opportunity to really make a statement. Alabama snuck by. CBUS, Ohio State snuck by with Nebraska, who's been tough all year in the Big Ten, and played Oklahoma close. So I thought some teams could have really taken advantage of last week, and they didn't. Hence why we got, as Pete said, I think 2 through 9, 2 through 10. I think it's Georgia and everybody else. But, Jake, I want to start with you. My claw offense last week, offense scored. They can't stop anybody at Wake Forest, but they got a big game this week. If the winner of NC State Wake will play for the ACC championship. So still a lot to play for. But I know you're going to talk Wake NC last week.
Yeah, I mean, that game is just a track meet. Who would ever thought 2 years in a row that North Carolina would put up 28 points in the fourth quarter? You thought Wake Forest might learn from that the year before, and was a big fourth quarter that led UNC to it. Obviously, it was the offensive show, but this year for North Carolina, it was more of the running game. The running back had over 250 yards, and even the quarterback Howell rushed over 100. So they grounded pounded Wake, so which was kind of surprising with Wake of trying to stop the run, but they gave up some big plays. But, Wake's offense is very good. Kind of that quarterback, even though he didn't have the best game, he still threw for over 350 yards, and I think he had 7 total touchdowns, what kept him in that game. Who would ever thought, this year, if you said that in the preseason, Howell versus Hartman, everyone would have gone with Howell. Oh, this would have been an easy game, Heisman Trophy. But, watching the game, I definitely think Hartman outplayed him. But obviously it's a team game, and North Carolina came at the end. Now, if the guy would have slid at the end, the game would have been done much sooner and not gave up an extra 14 points combined for each team. But it was definitely an exciting game to watch, and hate to say this, what you kind of now see in college football and even pros. Offense sells tickets.
Absolutely. And still, like I said, a lot to play for. The winner basically will control its destiny to play for the ACC championship. Should be a good game. It's
That's what
Wake.
Clausen even said. Is this is a non-league game.
Yeah.
He kind of just threw it up like we still have a chance to, win the ACC and everything. So he kind of just passed it off like non-league, no biggie.
And CBUS, I want to go to your Buckeyes because I thought your Buckeyes had a really good opportunity. Again, moving day Saturday. Nebraska's played Oklahoma tough. If Martinez doesn't fumble against Michigan, they beat Michigan. They've been in every game. They played your Buckeyes tough.
Yeah, I made the joke on Sunday when I was breaking down the game with my dad and said, it might be the best three-win team I've seen in quite a long time. They kind of expound on that, right? Ohio State beat Nebraska by 9 points, and it's the largest margin of victory that anybody's had over Nebraska all year. Nebraska. Give credit to Nebraska. Ohio State's kind of in a little bit of a funky spot right now. Watching that game, Stroud threw the ball 54 times. Henderson only touched the ball 21 times in the backfield. Really struggling running the ball on the outside right now. Defenses, Penn State kind of, threw the blueprint out there, and Nebraska followed suit with really kind of collapsing the ends and really forcing Henderson up the middle. And Ohio State's really struggling getting the ball outside of the tackles and really kind of attacking the perimeter of the defense on the ground. I think look for C.J. Stroud to tuck the ball here as the season gets a little bit later. I think Day's been keeping that ace in the hole. And I think they've been working with Stroud being a young quarterback, trying to keep his eyes downfield. And I think sometimes you don't want to give that quarterback the option to tuck and run because it does, can play a little bit mind tricks there from an eyes perspective. But at the same time, I look at Ohio State, Garrett Wilson, their second best receiver, maybe arguably 1A next to Chris Olave. He sits out against Nebraska. Jackson Njigba comes in, catches 15 catches for 240 yards. Has an absolute monster game. I think Ohio State, like I said, a little funky right now. Defense is playing well. The defensive line has looked really good the last 2 weeks of the season. Seem to be rounding in the form a little bit from where we saw them middle of the year and even earlier part of the year. My other concern right now offensively is they're struggling in the red zone. 2 touchdowns and 6 field goals in their last 2 games between Penn State and Nebraska alone. That is not going to get it done. They got Purdue this week, which I think we all know is not going to be, a walkover. So, Ohio State did what they had to do. I never really felt like that game was in jeopardy. I just felt like the game plan wasn't great. Players didn't execute that well. And again, give credit to Nebraska, right? They're a feisty team, best linebacking core maybe in the Big Ten I've seen.
Well, one thing is the committee was impressed with Ohio State. They put them in the top 4. So the win helped the Buckeyes for sure. We'll see if they can hang in that spot.
Now, Medicis, Scott Frost is still in the hot seat with all these close games.
No, they gave him an extension.
Oh,
they restructured his contract.
Okay.
They gave him
That's good.
I have that as a little bit of a spoiler here in a little bit. But.
Okay.
Well, don't be taking my spot, man. That's what I have for my big finish. So.
Well, Medicis, you got Purdue, Michigan State. Michigan State had to win against Michigan. Right now, Purdue's the spoiler makers. They beat Iowa. They beat Michigan State. Now the only difference is they got to go to the shoe to play the Buckeyes. It's not in West Lafayette. What'd you think of Purdue over Michigan State?
fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Why are we not buying Purdue right now as a giant killer? If you're Ohio State, you kind of got to have that fear factor in after watching Purdue throw for over 500 yards. I mean, they threw all over a very good Michigan State defense. I mean, Aiden O'Connell looked like a Heisman Trophy candidate the way he was throwing the ball all over the place. He threw for 536 yards. 11 catches went to Demetrius Bell. He was over 200 yards. This is a Michigan State team that is a defensive team. That they run the ball, they pound the ball, they play good defense, they play sound football, and Purdue just threw the ball all over the place. And I mean, it was just, this isn't the first time that Purdue's done that to someone. Obviously, they got the win over Iowa. So this is the second top 5 team, actually top 3 team that they defeated this year. And like you said, they go to Columbus to take on another top 5 team in Ohio State. But they did a good job. I mean, Kenneth Walker still ran for 146 yards. He still had his touchdown. He's now the NCAA leading rusher by about 63 yards over Sean Tucker. So, I mean, Michigan State still – I don't want to say they played a bad game, but I just want to say that Purdue played a much better game. And Purdue, again, you know, that Purdue's always been known for passing the ball, going back to the Drew Brees days. And, you know, Purdue was just a better team on that day. And I think, again, if you're Ohio State in a game early on in the season, you're probably saying, all right, you know what, that, you know, you get Nebraska, you get Purdue, you know, that's probably some of the easier games we're going to play. That game's going to be a difficult game for a team that's playing some good football right now.
Well, and I believe CBUS is the week before they play Michigan State. So we'll see if the Buckeyes are overlooking. So it should be a good game. I think
they get Buckeyes got a gauntlet. You know, I'm going to hop on Purdue for a minute, right? Talk about a team that or a game that everybody kind of circled, right? Going into last Saturday. Hey, Michigan State, be ready. Be ready for Purdue. They're not that bad. Upset special. Mel Tucker was talking about it, you know, middle of the week. Hey, we're going to be ready. We're not going to take that week off. And for Purdue to still win in the fashion in which they did tells me there was no catching Michigan State by surprise. Michigan State knew that Purdue was a good team. Purdue knew they were a good team, and it showed up on Saturday, and that is impressive. You know, so big shout out to Purdue, and it was a heck of a game for sure.
Well, we've been talking about the Big Ten East, and they're going to beat each other up over the last 2 to 3 weeks of the season. But if you look real fast at the Big Ten West, it's a 4-team race right now. And Wisconsin, who started off the year playing rough defensively, they look phenomenal defensively. Now all of a sudden they're moving the ball. So that Big Ten West is going to be a fun finish down the stretch, guys.
For sure.
All right, Pags, Cincinnati. Everybody thought Cincinnati, if they can blow out Tulsa 50-something to nothing, they had to struggle. Tulsa had a chance late. Cincinnati still outside of the top 4. Luke Fickell still hasn't lost a game in 2 years. Pags, what'd you think of Cincinnati and Tulsa?
Yeah, I think Cincinnati's not helping themselves right now. I think the last couple of weeks for them they haven't been very impressive. I mean, wins against Navy and Tulane didn't look very good, and then they come into this game and they got off to a good start. They scored on 2 of their first 3 drives. They were leading 14-0, and then, you know, at half I think it's 14-12, and then they jump ahead when they come back up 6. I think it was up 16, and then to win the game, they had to stop on the goal line twice in the final 2 minutes. I just think it was if they want to get into that top 4, they've got to do better than this. I think, you know, you're not going to get into that top 4 unless one of those teams drops out right now. I think Cincinnati's on the outside looking in, and you know, even if you look at the game, I mean, they were outgained 457 yards to 380. I just think they didn't play well against a team that they should have played very well against. They should have been very impressive against that team. So I think that lackluster performance makes people wonder, you know, is Cincinnati really that team that we want in the top 4 spots? I think they're hearing footsteps, because now you got a couple of teams knocking on the door To me, Oklahoma at 9-0, Michigan at 8-1. Those are all teams that, if one of those teams drops out of that top four, is Cincinnati gonna pick up that spot over one of those teams? Right now, I'd say no, because they don't look that impressive. And the teams that they still need to play, I think they play SMU next, I believe. They're the only reigning team that they're playing left on their schedule, and they just lost to Memphis. So their strength of schedule for the last couple of games is not looking strong. And then more than likely, when they play in the American Athletic Conference title game, it looks like it's probably going to be Houston. That's I think what everyone's going to. And they struggled against South Florida this past weekend. So I don't know. Cincinnati is one of those teams that I want to cheer for, and I know Luke Fickell's done a phenomenal job with that program. But you gotta win those games against those teams that you're supposed to win impressively because people are watching. There's only 4 spots available, and it's a tight fit right now. So Cincinnati might have hurt themselves because I don't know how much they can help themselves now with their remaining schedule. So unless one of those top 4 teams slips up. Or I think Oklahoma is coming strong at the end. They got a tough schedule with Baylor, Iowa State, and I think Oklahoma State to finish things off. So, it's going to be tough for Oklahoma, but I don't know. I don't know if Cincinnati has done enough in the last 3 weeks to deserve a top 4 spot.
When we get into the BCS, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I still think Cincinnati – I think other than Oregon beating Ohio State for me, you can arguably say Cincinnati's got the next best win right now against Notre Dame.
That's Notre Dame,
sitting
yeah.
in the top 10. I still think it plays out for them. I think you survive in advance. If Cincinnati wins out, there's going to be some hiccups. So we'll talk about that. I want to talk – of course, I'm going to talk about Michigan bouncing back and beating Indiana, even though Indiana was down to their 3rd and 4th string quarterback. But a win's a win. Here's the thing. They've won the games they're supposed to win. They should have beat Michigan State. I know they didn't. They dominated the Michigan State game. They couldn't tackle anybody in the Michigan State game. Blake Corum got hurt early in the game, which to me, Hassan Haskins had 27 carries for him, over 168 yards rushing. They were expected to win that game. Let's see what Michigan does this week. I think Penn State, Nick from CBUS, Penn State surprised me defensively against the Buckeyes. I think the corners on the outside are going to be tough for Michigan, and I think that front for Penn State was really good against Ohio State. So we'll see. But Michigan won a game they were supposed to win. Now see what they can do this week against Penn State. Guys,
I feel like you could have rewound that take, Rock, from 2020, 2019, 2018.
Well, just last year we were talking about how Indiana was the behemoth powerhouse in football all of a sudden,
Fair.
And now all of a sudden, we're back to reality, saying that Indiana is a basketball school. Let's face it.
And they were down to their 3rd string quarterback. So, anyways,
all
right, guys, I want to talk. We spent some time, probably about a month ago, on the coaching carousel, the coaching search. I do want to start with the LSU job. Again, there's still a lot of the same names being mentioned for the LSU job, the USC job. And I'm still going to say this. This is the scenario I think that's going to happen. I know a lot of people this week said that it's Jimbo Fisher's job if he wants it. I still think the Mel Tucker LSU ties, I think Mel Tucker is going to take the LSU job. And then here's what I also think. I think James Franklin's going to take the USC job, and I think Luke Fickell is going to either take the Michigan State job, or I think Luke Fickell is going to take the Penn State job because he's a Midwest guy. He's a Big Ten guy. And here's the reason why. If Cincinnati does not get into the playoff 2 years in a row going undefeated, I know Cincy's going to go to the Big 12, but that's probably in a couple of years. I think Fickell is a Midwest guy, CBUS. I think he would fit perfect at Michigan State or Penn State. What do you think? Who you got?
I tend to think I like the Franklin the USC hire. I think it makes the most sense there. I think Franklin fits kind of West Coast there, and it seems like the writing's kind of on the wall. I can't get a feel for Tucker, right? I get the draw to LSU. But I also think that he feels like he's just getting Michigan State kind of around that corner. So I wouldn't be shocked if he decides to pay put. I do think you're right. Fickell, definitely Big Ten guy. The talk is always here if and when Ryan Day decides that he wants to move on. That's the guy that Ohio State would probably try to give a jingle to. I would say, though, Rock, if and we're going to talk about the college football playoff, but if that expands to 12, does Fickell need to leave Cincinnati? Because if it gets to 12 teams, we're not really wringing our hands over. Are they one of the top 4? We're asking, or one of the top 12, and I don't think any of us are keeping them out of the top 12, right? So I'm with you there. Fickell's a family dude. He has a lot of kids and a lot of family here in CBUS. So Penn State makes sense. It's close enough. Same thing about Michigan State, but there's just something tells me he's not going anywhere yet.
But I guess how come Fickell's name's not coming up more with USC? He's got ties to USC because the AD there, I think Mike Bohm, he hired him at Cincinnati. So there's a pretty strong tie there.
Too far away. He doesn't want to go across country. It's too far away. He's a Midwest kid through and through. He's not picking up his family and moving to the left coast.
Yeah,
but
USC can take care of the family.
But jumping in on what we talked about before, I know last year we talked all the time about who's going to replace Harbaugh, and Fickell's name got brought up, and you were the one that said Fickell, as an Ohio guy, will not go to a Michigan school.
Yeah, I don't think he will.
It's a fair point. Whole Michigan State thing, and I don't think Penn State either. I think USC needs a home run hire, and I think Luke Fickell's name's got to be at or near the top of their list. And again, money talks and sunny California. And again, if Cincinnati, goes undefeated and does not get in, I think there has to be a serious long thought about what gives me the best opportunity to get into that college playoff. Is it going to Penn State or Michigan State? And I don't think the answer is yes. I think you have to beat Ohio State. Michigan looks much improved. Who knows what happens with Wisconsin or someone out of that. I think your best move is USC, and I think he's seriously going to consider that USC job.
I agree. I think that's a home run for USC, and I think it's a home run for Luke Fickell. I just think, when you look at the names, James Franklin to USC, I think that's a great fit. But I think I would think they'll go after Luke Fickell before they go after James Franklin at USC.
Jake, what do you think?
It's so hard because you hear different things. LSU, I'm leaning more towards and reading stuff. And, I really think Lane Kiffin is probably looking at it, especially his quarterback leaves. He might see the cover, and he always looks for the greener grass on the other side of the fence. So I could see him going there. Also, I know CBUS said it last week and kind of threw me a surprise when I started reading more of it. What's his name at Oklahoma State? Gundy.
Gundy.
He's definitely a guy I'm starting to read and is starting to pick up more because I feel like he at Oklahoma State is still always there, but he always has to go against Oklahoma. But he always has a great offense. This year he finally has a good defense, but I've been hearing
the offense isn't that good. That's what's crazy.
For once.
Yeah. And
then the USC – I'm on with CBUS. I don't see him going out there. I know the AD was there before, but that's a huge jump. Now that's a perfect spot for him because USC is probably an easier road to win the Pac-12 than go to LSU and win the SEC. But I'm thinking out there, I think they're going to make us not a surprise, but maybe kind of go off the unbeaten path. I bet you they look at the NFL, and I could see one of those ex-NFL guys coming back, and I don't see them looking at the college rank. I think they're going to go above, and who knows, maybe be the chief offensive coordinator or someone that they'll find that's a coordinator or this that they'll bring there, and that's how they think they'll make a huge splash out there.
You guys, I didn't.
We talk coordinators, and you always bring up Eric Bieniemy. I think, Rock, I know that's the name that always comes up, but it seems like he can't land the job anywhere. But I don't think they dip into the NFL for the USC job. I think there's too many names. I think between Fickell and Franklin, those are one of the guys they would go to, unless none of those guys want to make the jump. Some other names I saw out there was Matt Campbell, but I don't see that that's not a big enough hire for USC.
Well, a lot of these guys too. I mean, Lane Kiffin, the success he's having at Ole Miss, he's the hot coach. Matt Campbell was the hot coach for the last 2 years. I mean, Iowa State's still playing good football, but they were preseason top 10, and they kind of fell off the map a little bit. Bob Stoops' name keeps getting mentioned. Dave Aranda at Baylor's name keeps getting mentioned. And the other one that I've mentioned a month ago for that LSU job is Billy Napier, the head coach at Louisiana, that's got Louisiana ties. I don't think he gets the job, but I think they'll take a look at him. But I'm really interested to see what happens, because I think Franklin takes one of these two jobs. Because listen, let's just say he loses this week. That's 4 losses for Penn State, a team that came in again another year with high expectations. And CBUS, I've said it before, and I say Jim Harbaugh can't win the big game. James Franklin hasn't really had too much success either at Penn State.
Totally agree. I think it's a fair call. The other thing I'll say about the Michigan State with Fickle job, to kind of put a little more water on that, that's who they wanted before they went to Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker was plan B. Luke Fickle was plan A for Michigan State, and he turned it down already. So I'm not necessarily sure if they come. Why would they? If Tucker leaves, right? Are they really going to circle back? You already left me at the dance one time. Am I really gonna get embarrassed again if you tell me you don't want to come here a second time? I feel like that ship has sailed. I can't argue the Penn State fit for him if Franklin goes to USC, but the more I'm chewing on it, Michigan State doesn't feel right.
Guys, I didn't have this on here. I just want to throw this one out there. Gary Patterson, who was at TCU for a long time, and hats off to Gary Patterson for a hell of a job he did there. I just heard today, prime time, Deion interviewed for that job, and they said Deion was very impressive in that interview. What do you think? Does he got a shot, Medicis?
I think Deion's got a shot at a number of jobs. I know we talked about before, and you want to make a splash at USC, bring Deion into Southern California and get that Pete Carroll, bring celebrities in, bring NFL players in. I mean, he's going to be able to recruit. And he's going to put a staff around him that kind of is a veteran staff that's been there before. I mean, if you look at the staff he's got at Jackson State right now, he's got a bunch of former NFL players. I mean, the name recognition, Deion can go somewhere and coach, and I think he's going to be able to bring those recruits similar to what Penny Hardaway's doing at Memphis in men's college basketball. He's that new age coach that, kids want to play for. And if kids want to play for you, it's going to make recruiting a lot easier.
I agree. Kids want to play for Coach Prime, man. He's a show everywhere he goes. And if you're a college that you want to make a name for yourself, and Nick, you hit it right on the head. That USC job would be a phenomenal hire for him, with the attention that he would bring to that program, and like you said, that sideline would be a party.
The name I was thinking of, but he pulled his name out of there. He's waiting for an NFL job. I thought Kellen Moore would be a good fit too at TCU, but he said he's going to wait for an NFL job.
Look out for Sonny Dykes. Look out for Sonny Dykes.
Yes.
Sonny Dykes.
Yes. All right, guys. One of my favorite segments. We started at the last couple shows, I think, with buy or sell. So, CBUS, I'll start with you, and we'll go around the horn here. I got to throw Jim Harbaugh into the mix. Are you buying or selling that Jim Harbaugh needs to beat the Buckeyes to be back next year in Ann Arbor?
Am I speaking on behalf of if I were you and a Michigan fan, or if I was Michigan alumni or AD?
I had Michigan at 9-3 this year preseason when I did my picks.
So I buy the fact he's got to beat Ohio State to keep his job. You can't. The definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? So at some point he's got to break through. I think it's totally doable this year. I'll be the first one to admit that, this is not an Ohio State team of old where the talent gap is that immense. You have a young Ohio State team. If they are going to get them, this is the year. You got them at home. You got a young quarterback. You got a team that's got, that's good. Let's not pretend Ohio State's not good, but they got some holes there. So I'll buy that. I think even if he loses, they're not getting rid of him. That's just my take. But I would tell you, if I'm anybody, you got to beat Ohio State.
Jake, you buying or selling it?
Selling it. He turned over a whole new staff. and you've seen huge improvement. And so even though if they go out and they beat Penn State and Maryland and they keep the game close against Ohio State, I can't see them getting it with 2 losses. Like we're sitting here, who's better out there? He made wholesale changes with his coaching staff, and you're starting to see the difference this year. I think you got to give him another year with that staff again, because a good off season with another spring season, another how well can they recruit could help them put them over the edge.
Medicis, what do you think? You buying or selling it?
I'm selling. I think this Penn State game's more important to Michigan than than the Ohio State job with his job on the line. I think a win over Penn State and Maryland, and you might be talking extension with a 10-win season and kind of closing the gap on Ohio State. Now, do I agree with that? Absolutely not. But I do think if there was ever a year that they could beat Ohio State, it would be this year with a freshman quarterback, because you see Stroud's getting better every game. And you can see, I'll put it like this. If Ohio State plays Oregon today, Ohio State's a 2-touchdown favorite going into the game. So I do think that Ohio State's much better. I think Michigan hangs around with Ohio State right now. I really do. But yeah, I'm selling that if he loses that game, he's gone without question. I think he's done enough this year. And if he beats Penn State and Maryland and wins 10 games, I mean, geez, the Michigan people, after what they went through last year, might build a statue of him at this point.
Ooh. Pegs, what do you think? You buying or selling it?
I agree. I'm selling a lot of the things that the guys have already said. That if they go in, if they beat Penn State, I think that's the bigger buy or sell question. Should they lose the game to Penn State? Then I'm saying, you know what, it might not even matter what happens in that next game with Ohio State. But I agree. He's turned it around. He's starting to develop a quarterback there. Things are starting to move in the right direction for Michigan pretty quickly. I mean, last year was dismal. The years before hasn't been pretty. And all of a sudden, I think that the Michigan faithful are seeing, maybe this is the resurgence of Michigan. Maybe Michigan is back. So I'm selling. I think if they win out everything else and it comes down to that game, and he loses that game, I think they hang on to him for another year to see what happens.
Well, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I'm going to sell it, but I'm going to say this. The Ohio State game is always the biggest game of the year, no matter what it is. The Penn State game is a big game for him because he hasn't had that much success against Penn State. But here's what I'll say. I think they do beat Penn State this week. And then if he gets shellacked, and I mean shellacked, 50-something to 12 or 50-something to 14, and it's that bad, you will not see him back in Ann Arbor next year. That's why they restructured the deal. I will say this, though. I am completely on board with all the coaching changes that he made. They're a different team, but they're a different team this way. They're winning the games this year that they're expected to win when you're at Michigan. They didn't win that Michigan State game. I still think that it was a game where, again, you don't switch quarterbacks. Michigan's probably in the top 4 when they released the rankings last night, and they're still probably undefeated. The one thing I'll say, though, is about the quarterback piece. I don't think he's developed a quarterback yet. Cade hasn't really screwed it up yet. He hasn't really had to throw the ball 40 times like everybody thought he did. Now, Cade proved me in the Michigan State game that he could throw the football. And I think everybody as a Michigan fan would say J.J. McCarthy's the quarterback of the future at Michigan. It's just a matter of when are we going to see him and when's Harbaugh going to make that decision like a Lincoln Riley did. If he loses to Penn State and loses to Ohio State, he's gone. There's no chance.
Oh, I agree.
Because then you'd lose to Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State. But if he gets by Penn State, he beats Maryland. If he loses to the Buckeyes in a close game, 10 wins, they're in a New Year's Six bowl game.
He's already
at the end of the year.
He's already done that, Rock. I mean, like here's my point. The guy is 2-13 against the top 10 since he's been at the program. Since when is that acceptable for a program of Michigan status? Why is that acceptable for the alumni, for you as a fan, for the players? They beat Penn State. They go and lose to Michigan. It's the same thing. New coaching staff, old coaching staff, they were winning games they were supposed to win. They only lost 8 games to other teams in the Big Ten outside of Michigan State and Ohio State. He's only lost 8 games in the conference outside of those 2 schools. Nothing is different until until he beats Ohio State and Michigan State on a consistent basis. The rest of it means nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, I'll say this, Ted. I don't disagree with you, but I'll say this. Nobody in the Big Ten's beat Ohio State in the last 10 years. Nobody has beat Ohio State. And I'm not sticking up for Jake.
That's a loss you talk about every year.
They most certainly have. We're not undefeated in the last 10 years. Michigan has not beat Ohio State in the last 10 years. Don't let him off the hook, Rock. You're trying to just everybody's trying to soften the blow. Oh, well, I mean, come on, guys. He beat Indiana and he found a way to beat that frisky West Washington team at night when we thought they were going to be good. Let's give it another run. Hey, look, as a Ohio State fan, bring him back, please. I will take as many victory laps against him as I can. I'm just saying, as a fan of the rivalry and a fan of the conference, this is not the Michigan that I grew up on. It's not the Michigan that I was scared to death to play every last week in November. And until they start accepting that that's the standard, I don't think anything changes.
Well, here's what I'll say to that, and then Medicis, I'll let you talk, and I'll jump to the next one. Growing up a Big Ten homer myself, it's not the same Michigan that was years ago. I'll admit that. However, I don't think it's been the same Penn State team that's been in the years ago growing up as a kid. It was always Penn State. It was always Ohio State. It was always Michigan. Michigan State was always there. I'm just saying, based off of the last couple of years that Jim Harbaugh has had, if he wins 10 games this year, it's an improvement for the program. But it's not at the expectations, as Medicis always says. What are the expectations at Michigan? You could go 1-10. You got to beat Ohio State, and you got to put your team in a position to play in the playoff. And right now, up until this point, whoever wins the Big Ten is going to the playoff. If Michigan wins out, they're in. If Ohio State wins out, they're in. If Michigan State wins out, they're in, because they're probably going to have to play, which people forget. When Michigan beat up on Wisconsin, it was, well, Wisconsin's down. They had a lot of injuries. It's not the same old Wisconsin. Well, Michigan beat a Washington team that lost to a Division I AA team. But remember, preseason, that Washington team was preseason what? Top 10 in the country. So a lot of the games that Harbaugh wins, there's always that flip to, well, if he would have lost that game, well, typical Jim Harbaugh. But when he wins those games, everybody says, well, Wisconsin was down, Washington's down, and so forth. So, Nick, I agree with you 100%. As a Michigan fan, he's got to win those big games. I don't know what it's going to take. If you bring in somebody else, maybe they'll have more luck. If he doesn't change quarterbacks against Michigan State, they win the game, because they wouldn't. Cade McNamara probably wouldn't have fumbled. So I agree with this. As a Michigan guy, they're paying him to beat Ohio State. If it's, like I said, if it's a blowout, I think he's gone. I don't think he'll survive, even if he does win 10 games.
Rock, Ohio State 76-4 in the last 10 years. Just to put that in perspective, like you said, not many people beat Ohio State. And Nick, as an Ohio State fan, of course, is going to throw in that Iowa beat them once or twice. But you're talking about a team that won 76-4 in the last 10 years.
And Ryan Day hasn't lost a game yet, has he, in the conference?
Nope.
But I'm sure we'll get more into that. I will. All right, guys, here's the next. Pete, did I get you? Yeah, I got you.
You did, yeah.
Let's start with you on this
threw
one.
My hat.
Pegs, are you buying or selling that after dropping to 4-5 this year, losing 40-17 to South Carolina, is Dan Mullen at Florida coaching for his job?
Oh, absolutely. I'm buying. That's a buy all day long. I think Florida has dropped off the map as far as football. I think you talk about Michigan. I think it's the same situation in Florida. I'm buying that all day long. I think that's an embarrassing loss for Florida. I do think it's a time for a change over there. I think it's the same thing. We talk about the expectations. I mean, Florida football, the Gators have always been right there, and the drop off, I think, is too great for that not to be a buy.
Medicis, you buying or selling it?
Oh, I think anyone that thinks anyone that's not buying this, I got to question what they're looking at. I mean, to think that Florida has dropped off so much that they're going to look ahead and say, "Oh, thankfully we have Samford this week so we can get a win." I mean, it's just it hasn't gone right, and I think you go back to football is such a game of inches, and it's such a cliche, but I mean you're talking about a Florida team that should have beat Alabama early on in the season, and now they're getting blown out by a South Carolina team that's not even close to where Alabama was at. So I just think the team he's lost the locker room. The team is not playing the way they should right now. I definitely think it's time to start looking because expectations are at Florida. You're competing for SEC titles, and he's not doing that, so he's gone.
Jake, you buying or selling it?
Yeah, I'm just like those other two, buying it. Losing that many, 5, that's not typical Florida football, the Gators. Now, I think it will help him that he did play, Alabama, a couple of those other schools close, that he might get one more year. But I think if that's the case, he's going to have to clean house, just like how Harbaugh did. Clean house or you're gone, and you get one more shot at it. And they might give him that one more season after that. But if not, I would say he's gone.
CBUS, what do you think?
It's a tough one for me. I'm gonna buy it because I think he's an overrated football coach, and I've thought that since they hired him. However, I will say they did make the SEC championship game last year and lost by 6 to Alabama. So it hasn't been all terrible. I get it. This year is a huge disappointment. I thought he mishandled the quarterback situation from the word jump. I think everybody knew Richardson should have been playing over Emory Jones, and it's proven that. And now Richardson's dinged. Hot seat, yes. I'll buy the fact that if he can't squeak out a win or two, they got to look elsewhere. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's back.
I went back and forth on this when I was putting this on my screen here. Originally, I would say I'm buying it. I'm going to sell it only because I think right now, after seeing what Nebraska did with Scott Frost basically got rid of his entire offensive staff. I think Florida's going to do the same thing. Dan Mullen's already made some changes, and I think you'll see a lot of them like they did with Jim Harbaugh. And here's the thing I always say, guys. When we talked about this LSU job, we talked about the USC job, we're mentioning the same coaches for all these jobs. And I sit back and I say to myself, I think Dan Mullen's a good coordinator. And I would say I still think he's a good football coach. Now, his team quit on him last week against South Carolina. Tip your hat to Shane Beamer, who I think's done a hell of a job this year at South Carolina. His kids are playing hard for him. But who you going to get? That's the thing. We're going to talk about the same names. Is Bob Stoops coming out of retirement? It's the same stuff. So I think he'll get another year. But I agree. If they lose, 5 losses, potentially they may lose 6 after a season come in where people thought they were going to compete for an SEC title. It's a big disappointment for sure. All right, C-Boss, I'm going to start with you on this one. Let's see here. Where's my sheet? After beating Kentucky this past Saturday, moving to 5-4, a lot of people questioned at Tennessee if Josh Heupel was the right fit. You buying that Heupel now was the right fit at Tennessee?
I'm selling. I don't have enough sample size yet to tell you if I think he's the right fit or not. I like the early returns. I think it's going to take multiple years and patience for the Tennessee fan base and alumni to allow him to fully flip that roster and bring in his kids and let them play. I'm a Heupel fan, so I got confidence that he can do it, but I think way too early to buy that he's the right hire. He needs some time. We need to let that marinate a little bit. Impressive win, but I will also say Kentucky looked like world beaters there in September, early October. I think it was Medicis that told me to pump the brakes on Kentucky early part a couple shows ago, and definitely came to fruition from that perspective.
Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I lean towards they have the right guy, but they got to be patient with them. But, watching their games, it's always fun to watch the beginning of the game because they jump out pretty dang fast. I think Heupel's a great coach and schemes pretty well, but towards the end they start to lose games and get beat down. And I know he doesn't have his type of guys in there, but seeing the going in the right direction after what Tennessee's been a couple of years now, beating those teams, being close to some other ones. I mean, I know they got smacked by Alabama, but Alabama turned it on late in that fourth quarter or late third quarter. And even being close to Ole Miss, I think they can start seeing we have a brighter future. And he did well in the transfer portal too.
Yep.
So I can see him keep going down that road.
Medicis, how about you?
I'm going to sell on this one. I am, Josh Heupel, I think, got a lot of credit for taking over for Scott Frost at UCF. And if you looked at what he did every year, they got worse. So, yes, he has had some tough losses against ranked Florida team, Pittsburgh early on, who was a ranked team. I mean, they've had some tough losses, but Josh Heupel, you got to prove that you can win the ball games and you can build a program. I still go back to that UCF program where they're coming off a year where they claimed a national title and they were a top program. And if you look at his last year, they were barely a 500 program. And then he gets the Tennessee job and he's sitting around 500 in a good SEC, but prove to me that you can win some games. Prove to me that you can build a program and head it in the right direction. So I'm selling it. Like CBUS, I need some more information, but I'm still not sold on Josh Heupel as a head coach.
Pags, you buying it?
No, I'm selling too. I look at the schedule and see. I mean, yes, the win against Kentucky was an impressive win and a big win for the program, but we're talking about Tennessee. So when you're talking about Tennessee winning against Kentucky, that shows you how far down they've dropped. It's a win that as Tennessee you should expect that. But when I look at the schedule and see, they lost to Alabama, which again expected. Ole Miss, that's a game that it was close, but they didn't win that game. They lost to Pitt. They lost to Florida. I'm selling. I don't think he's done enough. You guys talk about whether needing to see more. I kind of think you've seen enough already. I don't think he's the right fit. I think he has turned the program around to some extent only because the Tennessee program has been so bad over the last couple of years. So it makes him look better than it is. But I don't think it's going to – I think if you look at this long term, I don't think he's going to be there very long. I don't think he's the right fit for the program.
But once again, Tennessee was predicted him to begin of the year with you guys dead last or close to dead last, and he's got him right in the middle up to the top. And you guys are acting like Tennessee is supposed to be a favorite. And, it's not like the Florida where they were all favorites. He's surprising people, and especially in his first year. And even going back to the UCF, they started winning. They started scheduling harder games. And then he had the injury to that quarterback. And, when you're at a school like that, like if Luke Fickell loses his quarterback right now, you can definitely mark him out of the playoffs where, a Florida or Alabama, they lose a quarterback. Here comes another 5-star guy. So I think he has a lot of potential, and I think you guys are selling pretty quick on him.
You guys can I give mine? Can I let you guys know what I think here? I'm buying it. You guys are tough on coaches today, man. I'm buying Josh Heupel. Jake, I'm with you. Okay. This is a Tennessee team that was picked second to last in the SEC. He's got these guys competing, and I'll tell you what, schematically, I think he's a hell of an offensive coordinator. I think once he's got a quarterback, Will Levis. He's found a quarterback at Tennessee. Milton wasn't the guy there. Surprise, surprise. I really think that they've made a lot of strides. I think they're ahead of schedule under Josh Heupel this year in his first year. So I like it, but I'll agree with you guys. The sample size isn't big enough. He inherited a good program at UCF, but I think he's building something special here at Tennessee. Guys, for the sake of time,
Bowling Green and Texas Tech, those are 2 wins that he's got. I mean, we're really giving him that much credit. I mean, that's almost half of his wins.
I was going to mute you, Pags, but I was going to do the Tony Reale with the clicker. For the sake of time, guys, we got to go through these predictions, just really quick 30-second predictions, because I want to get in to see who you guys have in your BCS rankings and all that. So, Pags, I'll start with you here. North Carolina is going to play at number 25 Pitt. It's Thursday night. Who you got?
I think North Carolina is going to win. I think they're off on based on last week. I think they surprised Pitt. I don't think Pitt's that good. I don't think they're that good of a team. I think North Carolina was supposed to be really good this year, and they're starting to come around a little bit now.
Medicis, who you like?
North Carolina in a close game.
Jake?
I'm going Pitt. I think North Carolina's coming off too big of a high of beating Wake Forest and running that high, and maybe with the short turnaround playing within 5 days, a Pittsburgh team that has a pretty good offense with that quarterback there. I'm going with Pittsburgh.
CBUS.
Jake is a smart man. That's exactly what I would say. I think it's too soon. Let down game. Pitt plays good D. Let's go. Panthers.
Boy, you're not going to like this, guys. I like North Carolina big. I think North Carolina's getting healthy. I think the offensive line's healthy from the start of the season until now. I think Sam Howell has played well consistently all year, and they're getting some guys back. I like them by like 2 touchdowns over Pitt. But we'll see.
Mac Brown appreciates you being the head of his fan club. So.
I know he does. All right, C-Bus, I'm going to start with you. Oklahoma, number 8 Oklahoma at Baylor. Who you got?
Woo! Man, Oklahoma coming off a bye. Feels like they had a chance to get some things right. I really want to take Baylor in this game. I'm ticked that they lost last week to TCU because I thought this would have been a heck of a matchup. I'm just gonna say too much firepower on the offensive side of the ball for Oklahoma. They find a way to squeak it out.
Jake?
Going Oklahoma. I think we're coming off the bye. Like C-Bus says, they're going to be ready to roll, and Baylor trying to figure out what happened last week with the TCU game.
Medicis, who we got?
Yeah, I'm going Oklahoma as well. I think at some point that offense is going to start clicking. And, if they have so many playmakers on that team. So, I'm going Lincoln Riley and Oklahoma.
Pegs?
Yeah, I'm going to go the same thing with Oklahoma. I circled this Baylor game as one of the ones I think that they could have nipped Oklahoma, but I think after last week, they're trying to figure out what happened, and I just don't think they're going to come back and beat Oklahoma this week.
I picked Baylor last week against TCU. I'm picking Baylor again. I think it was a trap game for Baylor last week because they were so excited to get Oklahoma. I think Baylor beats them at home Saturday. I do. I like Baylor. Pegs, I'll start with you. Mississippi State at Auburn.
This is a tough one. I like Auburn in this game, but Mississippi State is I'm trying to convince myself. I'm going to go with Auburn. Sorry.
Medicis, how about you?
I feel like every time we have this show, we pick an Auburn game. Every time it's like, which Bo Nix is going to show up? Which Auburn team is going to show up? I feel like I pick against them every week because I just don't know what's going to happen. So I'm going Mississippi State. Throw the ball over the place. Eggs and ham. Let's go.
Jake?
Coin flip.
Yeah.
I'll probably go with Auburn, coming off that disappointing loss. I think changed it around the defense. I mean, Mississippi State hasn't been putting up too many points and been that high power, so I'm going to go with Auburn.
C-Bus?
Put me down for the Tigers, but I'm sheepishly saying the Tigers because I have no idea. I feel like it's a coin flip game too. Bo Nix does just enough to get it done.
Here's the funny thing about Auburn. They still control their own destiny. If they win out, they got a shot to play for the SEC championship still. So I think Mississippi State's overrated. I love Mike Leach, and I've pulled for Mike Leach everywhere he's been. I think Auburn beats him up. I don't think this is even a good game.
Yeah, all right, ask Mike Leach about his favorite candy bar.
Candy corn, right?
He gave a whole dissertation about candy corn and candy on Halloween.
All right, Jake, I'm starting with you here. Number 7, Michigan at Penn State. Who you got?
History tells me to pick Penn State, but I'm going to pick Michigan this time. Barely, though. Ending a last-second field goal. Michigan walks out with the victory.
Medicis?
Is there a way that both coaches can screw up this game? because neither one really has impressed me in any way. I think Michigan's the better team. I think Michigan wins this game, and I just hope for Jim Harbaugh's sake that he stays out of it and just kind of sticks with one quarterback and lets him play and starts working towards that big Ohio State game.
CBUS, who you got?
I got Michigan by double figures. I think Penn State, a little bit of fool's gold. Defense is solid. They're going to get worn down by Michigan's run game. As long as they end up continuing to throw the ball, keep teams off balance. I got Michigan by 14.
Pegs?
Yeah, I got Michigan. Michigan's the better team. But if Jim Harbaugh wants to keep those khaki pants, man, he better win this game.
I'm going to go with Michigan. I think Michigan actually has the better kicker. I think they kick a field goal late in the game, and the defense comes up with a big stop at the end of the game to beat Penn State. And the reason why I'm going to pick them too, it's not a whiteout game. It's a half whiteout game, and it's at noon. If this was a 7:30 kick at Penn State, I probably would change my mind a little bit. But I'm going to go.
That's how low Michigan football has dropped the standards.
There's no way
you're talking about kickers.
Come on. There's
Shocking.
no way.
Shocking.
I picked Michigan to go 9-3.
That's just because you were just trying to protect your heart. That's all. You're just trying to set the expectations low so it
we'll
doesn't
see
hurt
when
as
we
much.
go Michigan versus Ohio State. Who you picking?
I'll give you my honest assessment. All right, Pegs, I'm starting with you. Can Purdue do it again? Can they knock off a top 5 team? Do they beat the Buckeyes in Columbus?
No way. No, I think the Boilermaker engine runs out against Ohio State. I think it was a good run, but I don't think they have enough to beat Ohio State. No.
Medicis?
I'm going Purdue to only score 10, Ohio State to score 45. Ohio State big.
Jake, how about you?
I'm going to go Ohio State, but I think it's going to be within 10 points. I think it'll be somewhat close, but I could see them having a big offense at the end and winning by 10.
C-Bus?
Boy, I'm telling you, you asked me this on Saturday morning, I'm going to have a different answer for you. But right now, I'm taking the Buckeyes in the squeaker. Watch out for Purdue's defensive end, George Karalafis, or however he says his name. Dude is a monster. Ohio State's offensive line has struggled over the last couple games. It is going to be close. Medicis, if you are right, I will Venmo you $10.
Ohio State 42, Purdue 17. Buckeyes by 2.5 touchdowns.
I'll take it.
All right, Texas A&M at Ole Miss. Medicis, who you got?
Well, I hope since we're picking every college football game, Syracuse in there too. But yeah, I'm going Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin. I think that offense is ready to roll. And like we said, he needs a big game. Quarterback needs a big game if he still wants to be in this Heisman talk with Kenneth Walker and everyone else. So Ole Miss.
Jake?
Going A&M. Like the way A&M's playing. Defense is doing pretty well. I think they hold Ole Miss down.
C-Bus?
Yeah, give me an A&M. Think they're playing better as the season's gone on. I'm not a big Jimbo Fisher fan, so this kills me to take them, but I'm going to take A&M here.
Medicis?
No, me.
Oh,
Right?
I forgot Pegs.
Yeah, Lane. I like Lane Kiffin. I think it's hard to go against him. It's like a big game for him, but I think these are the type of games that he finds ways to win. I think they win this game.
I'm going with the better quarterback. I'm going Matt Corral, and I'm going to say this. If Matt Corral has a big game, maybe a Heisman moment, maybe he's back in the race for the Heisman Trophy if he has a big game for Lane Kiffin. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss. The winner of this one, guys, is in the ACC title game. Does Wake come back and beat NC State at home? Pegs, who you got?
I like Wake. I think what happened last week to them kind of opened their eyes. I think they knew they had an opportunity to run the table this year and do great things, and I think they come back stronger after that loss.
Medicis?
I like Wake.
I really like Dave Clawson, and I think he's done a hell of a job. But I mean, I mean, he's won a lot of games that they probably shouldn't have, and I think coming off that emotional loss last week, I don't think they play very well, and I think NC State gets them by double figures.
Jake?
Oh, I think What do you want to go offense or defense? Who do you think's going to win the game? I'm going to go offense. I'm going to go Wake. I think it's going to be another high-scoring game, but I think Wake will come out on top.
CBUS.
Give me NC State. I think Wake Forest a little bit of a half step back here, and I think NC State's defense is better. You force Wake to turn it over a couple times. Pressure shifts to that offense. I like NC State here by a touchdown.
Well, I'm going with Wake. Dave Clawson said they got to be good to great is what they've been good all year. They got to be great. This is at home. They got the third best offense in the country. I think they'll outscore NC State. I like them by probably 10 points or so. I think they bounce back. Syracuse at 5-4, at 4-5, Louisville. Medicis, who you got?
I think Syracuse wins by double figures on Saturday. I think Sean Tucker gets the ball 25 to 30 times. I think he puts up huge numbers, a couple of scores. And again, I've been saying it for a couple weeks. It's not just the Sean Tucker show. Garrett Schaefer is a legit running threat. And if he can ever figure out how to throw the football, that Syracuse team's a lot better than 5-4.
Jake?
Nope, go on Louisville. They played Clemson very tough. Their quarterback had a pretty good game. I still don't trust Syracuse. Babers is going to give up another touchdown or so, but I think Louisville's got them.
C-Bus?
Give me the Qs, man. I think they're starting to piece it together. I'm with Medicis. Being able to run the football is a huge advantage here. And as the season wears on, teams get worn down. I like Syracuse in a squeaker by 3.
Dino Babers is the coach of the year all of a sudden.
You're taking it from me. I was going to say Syracuse 5-4. Babers is the coach of the year. He's going to take him to a national title. He's going to find a way to screw it up, and he's going to lose to Louisville this week.
Louisville beats Syracuse.
Yes.
Syracuse will drop to 5-5. I don't see him beating NC State, and I don't see him beating Pitt. They don't go to a bowl game this year, but we'll see what happens. I'm going Louisville. Guys,
and then we start to fire Dino.
The final prediction. They were picked 1-2 in the Patriot League. 7-2 Holy Cross, at 6-3 Fordham. Does Fordham get it done at home? Medicis, you think they get it done?
In one word, no, I don't. I think Holy Cross was the number 1 team going into preseason for a reason, and I think it sticks that way. Again, I said it before. I was hoping for that big Fordham-Colgate game that meant something. Unfortunately, I think Holy Cross beats Fordham this week.
Pegs?
Holy Cross. I'm making the sign of the cross over here. You can't see it, but Holy Cross.
All right. C-Bus?
Give me the Rams, baby.
Yes.
Let's go. Upset special. Let's go. They're gonna win by 10. It's gonna be a big one. Big win.
Jake?
Go on Holy Cross.
Oh.
They did beat University of
Connecticut.
That's their big win. So I'm going Holy Cross.
I picked Fordham in the preseason. I'm picking them this week. They got the best offense in the Patriot League, and they got one of the best linebackers in the country. So I'm going Fordham at home at Jack Coffey Field. It's going to be rocking this Saturday. I think they get it done. All right, guys. We got a little bit of time. I just want to see who you guys have in your top 6 for the BCS. We'll go real quick. We'll go around the horn. Pegs, who do you have in yours?
Pretty much, I got Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, Cincinnati. I want to drop Michigan out and put Oklahoma in there. That's the one change I have. I think Oklahoma deserves a shot over Michigan right now at 9-0.
Medicis, who you got in yours?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much the same as Pegs. I got Michigan at 6, Oklahoma at 7, but I think after 8, after Michigan State, there's a big drop off to that next almost tier of teams. So I have it pretty much outside of what the BCS has, flipped 7 and 8.
Jake?
Top 4, I have the same: Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State. But I'm gonna put Oklahoma at 5. I see Oklahoma has some better wins. I know Cincinnati has that. I still put Cincinnati at 6, and then I put Notre Dame right behind them. I dropped Michigan and Michigan State down. I don't see who Michigan, their big win is Wisconsin, which Notre Dame's beat and everything. That's what I'm going with.
CBUS, who you got?
I'm like everybody else. I got the top 4 as the same: Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State. I am going to go. I'm going to go Oklahoma 5th, and I'm going to go Michigan State 6th and Michigan 7th. I have Cincinnati actually like 9th. I just don't see it right. I always look at all, and we can get into this at a later time. I know we're up against it, but I think it's who are the 4 best teams, not most deserving, which is their task. We think Cincinnati is deserving because they're undefeated. They do not pass the eye test. They have not passed the eye test other than beating Notre Dame, as far as I'm concerned. That they don't belong.
I snuck. So for me, I had Georgia, Bama. I did have Oregon at 3. I did put Cincinnati at 4. I put the Buckeyes at 5. And then I did go Michigan State, Michigan in there. I think it plays out well. I think if Cincinnati wins out, you're going to see a lot of movement at the top anyways. I said, the Big Ten's going to play itself out. I don't think Bama's beating Georgia. That's going to play itself out. I think all this at the end will play itself out.
You have Oklahoma sitting behind Michigan State?
I do. Yep. I have Michigan State, Michigan, and then I have Oklahoma sitting there. And listen, if Oklahoma wins out, it's going to be hard to keep them out because they're going to probably have to beat Oklahoma State twice.
Right.
And they got to beat a good Baylor team. So it'll play itself out. All right, guys, we're going to do the pardon shots. I'm hoping nobody steals mine because I only came with one today. So, and I'm gonna put Pags on the spot here. So Pete, you're up solo. We can't see you, even though we'd love to see you.
All right. Well,
what do you got for us?
My parting shot is to Nebraska. What are you doing? What are you doing bringing back Scott Frost? I don't understand it. I mean, his 4th losing season there. Announcing he's going to return in 2020. He's now 3-7, 1-6 in the Big Ten, last place. I don't understand it. I don't understand why you would do that to your program. I think it really shows how far down Nebraska has fallen. His winning percentage is like less than 30%, 35.7% winning percentage. He's getting a 5th season. He fired all 4 of his coaches. I think it's just, he's dismal. 15-27 at his time there so far in 4 years. It just, to me, it kind of shows to me that Nebraska is waving the white flag, and this program is not heading in the right direction with Scott Frost. I know he's a big alumni of that program, and with being there and being a big arm there, but it's time to move on. Why would you give him an extension to continue to coach there and continue to bring Nebraska down further? I don't see any positive coming out of this for Nebraska. I think they made a mistake. They had a chance to part ways, and I think they should have with Scott Frost.
I'm taking you off the screen because I'm putting myself on the screen because you kind of stole mine, except I'm going the other way. I think Nebraska made a good move by bringing him back, and they're going to give him time. I actually think that Martinez, the quarterback, has hurt him this year. They lost to Oklahoma 23-16. He turned it over late in the game. They lost. 23-20, they lost to Michigan State. He turned it over. They lost. They should have beat Michigan. He fumbled it late going in for a score. They lost 32-29. They lost to Purdue 28-23. They played the Buckeyes tough 26-17. They still got to play at Wisconsin, and they still got to play at home against Iowa. I think this might be the new trend you might see with a lot of coaches. When Michigan hired Jim Harbaugh, I thought it was the right fit. He played at Michigan. He's a bowl guy. He was the Michigan guy. I thought Scott Frost fit that same bucket, played for Tom Osborne, Nebraska guy, won at UCF. I thought he deserved the job. And one of the most important things that I look at with coaches, they haven't quit on Scott Frost. If anything, I think they're playing harder for Scott Frost. So I think this would be it. He got rid of his whole entire offensive staff. Next year, if they're sitting at 3-7, he's gone. But I think giving them one more year, I think, is definitely the right move for Nebraska. CBUS, what do you got?
I want to talk a little bit. I think we're all in the coaching carousel tonight, but I want to talk a little bit about just the impact and the message that we're sending with all these coaches getting fired. Right, we got 9 head coaches fired already, and none of these firings is really about the well-being of the student athlete. It's really about everyone but them. Right? It's about trying to keep these recruits committed and bringing certainty to the future recruits. And it's about telling your boosters and the fans that, hey, we're taking this seriously. So let's stop with complaining about the transfer portal and NIL and, oh my gosh, it's going to ruin college football. It's big business. Schools don't care about these kids. The fans don't care about these kids. They care about W's. So we could be sad that it's not true amateurism anymore and college football isn't what it used to be when I watched it 25 years ago. It's not the same amateurism. So count me in. Let's get these players all the rights that they can. Let's make sure they have some power, and let's quit pretending like everybody else around these kids don't treat this like a big business, so they do. So let's make sure that we let these kids have the same amount of power.
Jake, what do you got for us?
Well, I think that was the first tonight, kicking someone off so early. Wow. Welcome to the show, Pags. See you later. So, no, I'm kind of going to go to more to the high school and even smaller colleges with this whole COVID year. You know, there was a lot of talk of even, delaying the football season, and me being a high school football coach. I know a lot of high school coaches. Just want to say congrats of doing it through this COVID year when everything was uncertainty. You had to go week by week. And I know even the small schools, like colleges like D3, D2 schools, it is a whole different ball game of going through the proper things with COVID, wearing masks, making sure everyone is following procedures. And if you do have something, but I think it's shown that, especially in New York, that, hey, a lot of schools got through the season. Yeah, they might've missed a game here because of it, but I want to give all the coaches and the schools and ADs props for getting the football season off the ground. And I hope, I know Medicis is on here and Pags, they're both high school basketball coaches. Hopefully they saw that high risk sports, it can be played during COVID, and, the basketball season should go on, and there might be a week or two, a hiccup here or there, but the season can definitely finish.
What do you got, Medicis?
All right. So I don't want to turn this into a basketball talk because we're getting ready for basketball, but I just want to talk a little bit about the biggest little game in the country this week. My Cortland Red Dragons playing against the hated Ithaca Bombers. Again, it's nice to see big time rivalries actually happen in this COVID year when things are so uncertain. You have Cortland coming in 9-0. Their closest game was a 22-point victory in week 1. I mean, some of these scores, 49-6, 58-9, 58-7, 47-3, 55-3. It's been a while since Cortland's playing so well. Ithaca comes in 8-1, ranked as well. I am pumped for the Cortica Jug. It brings me back to the college days, getting up at 8 o'clock, tailgating, getting ready for the biggest game of the year. I'm excited. Go Cortland. And again, like Jake said, it's great to see that small football, the D3 football, can happen safely, and we can have full capacity and really enjoy this game.
Are you going to next year's game, Nick? You know where that is?
Oh, yeah, Yankee Stadium.
Yankee Stadium, baby.
Yankee Stadium next year.
Let me bring Pags back on here. I probably should have I forgot about that, Nick. We probably should have picked that game in the prediction. So I apologize. I forgot all about it.
We got 15 seconds.
All right. Who you guys got? CBUS, Cortland, Ithaca.
Where did Medicis go to school?
Cortland.
Portland.
All right, give me the opposite.
Jake, who you like?
Being a Brockport guy, it pains me to say Cortland, but my one of my best friends, Fitzpatrick, is the head coach there, and he's done great things there in his first year there.
Absolutely. So, Nick, I know who you're going with. Pags, who you going with?
I like Cortland too. I like Cortland. Thanks for hitting the mute button on me there, bud.
And kicking you off too.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the show, Pete.
Pags,
Pags,
that's the only thing he's got. He's got the mute button. That's the only thing he's got to keep me quiet.
Pags, what'd you think tonight? Your first time on with us? you have fun?
I survived without getting a beating. That was good. I can't figure out this camera thing. I've been playing with it the whole time, trying to pop in, but it's not working. I don't know what's going on.
I'm going Cortland. Coach Fitz always came on the radio with us and has always been good to me. So I'm going to go with Cortland as well. Well, you guys, listen, it's been fun. We went a little bit over, but that's okay. We don't have any time limit. So I appreciate you guys coming on tonight, and we'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Rock.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, guys.
Portland.
Appreciate it. So I want to make sure I thank the guys tonight. I want to thank Pete for coming on tonight. Pags did well. Pags had some fun. It was good to have him on. He's part of the Saturday morning Mohawk Valley Sports Watch, which we will air this Saturday. The stat man, myself, Coach Medicis. Coach Medicis' his basketball clinic started last Saturday, which my son's doing. He had a great turnout last week. So I'll be leaving at 10:30, but it was definitely fun. Great show tonight, as always. We'll run it back here again in a few weeks. I'll have to let the guys know when. But a lot of big college football games left over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I hope you enjoy all the Rock Pile shows. As I always say, the Rock Pile is where dreams become reality.